Bench Opinions. 3 idiots with amateur analysis.
Right.
I feel like you, Bladen. What a day.
Bench Opinions, episode 12.
12.
It's like the Super 12.
Yeah, we now have mouthpieces.
Massive microphones.
I want to get one of those where you like put it on your upper lip.
Yeah, like proper commentators.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we'd get instant street cred for that.
Did you folks have a good weekend?
It was good.
Yeah, Dominic and I went to go watch some local rugby. RK03. We unfortunately watched them get absolutely smashed.
Yeah,
What was the score?
31-14.
Yeah.
But it was 24-0 at halftime. They played the top of the log team from Hanover. I don't know what they were called, but some team from Hanover. And they were third on the log at the time. So almost top of the table clash. But just completely run over in the first half. And then they ended up winning the second half 14-7. So good comeback. Over 200 spectators.
207 to be exact.
That's good. And no one got injured?
No,
there's lots of
a guy
injuries.
could not walk after the kickoff. Yeah, a guy went up for the kickoff, landed, and then his knee said, "Auf Wiedersehen."
I feel like very few of the subs, if any, were made due to strategic plays. It was all injury-based.
That bomb squad came on.
First off.
I was saying to Claus, I was like, these Oaks look in constant pain. The guy, they're constantly getting up and like on one leg and like holding something, and then they lie down, and then the lady runs onto the pitch to see if they're okay.
Is it the same as when they do in football that whatever injury they have, they just pour water on your leg?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I didn't see them doing any actual work. I think they just check if the guy still knows where he is, and if he does, then it's all good. Then he carries on. But I was saying to Claus that the level of sacrifice for the level of rugby you're playing blows my mind. You must really love the game.
Yeah, I was going to say, you must have a death wish, or you must be so committed to play amateur rugby at that level. Especially, I couldn't imagine a more risky thing to do than to throw yourself head first into challenges with Oaks who've probably had like 41 beers the night before.
But it must be said, I think the level of rugby was really good. I was quite surprised. It was good to watch. Set pieces solid, good scrumming, well contested scrums. The refereeing was actually bar a couple of decisions that didn't really make sense. At some point, he told the person who got tackled to roll away, which was weird. I don't know, not quite sure I don't know if he got his signals mixed up there, but it was definitely this. And the guy got up and was like, I don't know what am I supposed to do. But other than that, really good quality rugby actually, and it was a good watch. Yeah.
No, it was a lot of fun. Good spectators. Everybody seemed quite passionate about it. Lots of families there.
Yeah.
Lots of kids there.
Yeah.
Klaus
and I got very passionate with people like us.
Yeah, we were shouting. We were like, "Ref, that's a yellow card. That's a deliberate knockdown."
That was a poor decision as well. Yeah.
So it's like the reffing in the URC.
Just these guys don't have a third umpire.
Did you ask them about consistency in reffing?
No, we didn't actually.
Although we did speak to, I think, our friend Graham, who does strength and conditioning coaching for one of the teams. He said that the level of refereeing is actually quite surprisingly good for the level of rugby they play.
Yeah.
And I think it must be vital. I mean, I wouldn't mind going to watch their third team play sometime to see what that's like. I mean, we went to go watch that friendly, the one, and good old Danny almost got guillotined. But I think there's some rough tackles, but hard hits, and it was pretty fair game actually.
Yeah.
I think no dirty play, a lot of just solid rugby, I think.
Bundesliga 1, eh? So it's like, in terms of German standards, high level rugby.
Nice.
Good.
We tried to theorize after the game what level it would sort of compare to in South Africa. And I think sort of maybe second tier club rugby in South Africa kind of is the way it goes. I think the Premiership teams are too good. But yeah, and the whole team as well, or 90% of the team German as well. So
that's good.
You would expect in a city like Berlin, the team to be dominated by expats, but no, full German.
So does the ref in German as well?
I don't know. He did have a very long conversation to the one player at some point because, and all I saw the player doing is like making this with his like, and he kept pointing at the one guy and like doing like he's mouthing off at me movement.
I think he himself was chirping quite a bit.
Yeah.
And he was trying to show as much respect as possible. So he kept on holding his hands behind his back.
Yeah.
So like, I'm not threatening. I'm very much respectful. But he was
But
definitely.
it must have been a good 10-minute conversation.
Oh, it was forever.
Seriously, 10 minutes. But the other team scored a try, and then he had words with him before the next kickoff, and it must have been, like I said, I don't know, it felt like an eternity. So I don't know what was happening there.
Hectic.
What about your weekend? What did you do?
In the land of no sports.
Yeah, listen. Was in Switzerland visiting family. Weather was terrible. It rained the whole time, and then today it was 20 degrees and sunshine. So just were there when I was there.
You just bring the vibes, eh?
Yeah, gave me a lot of time to help my dad with all of his computer stuff, which I think that's like what my visits are for now. Taught him how to use Trello, the project management software.
Oh, nice. I'm on that now as well. It's a good vibe.
I mean, big ups for an 82-year-old man to still learn project management tools. Helped him with his Facebook posts because he was posting random shit on random channels that he has got. So,
so essentially just reining him in.
yeah, just sort of teaching him that. And then I had to help him so he's taking one of his bicycles down to South Africa because they don't use it there. So he took it to a bike shop to get packed into a box, and then you send it from the south of Switzerland where he is to the airport in Zurich via train a few days before. He says he's done this last year, so I've helped him lug the thing to the main train station. It's only 16 kilograms, and it's like a box, like a big bicycle box. And we get there, and this Swiss guy behind the counter there. God, I almost lost it. So at first, my dad has got a very short temper, so I thought he would lose it, but he afterwards said, "Don't never get upset with people that you need something from." So he was very polite to him. This guy said he doesn't understand why we've packed it in a box. They only take bicycles when they're not in a box. And then he said, "How am I supposed to pick this up?" And I said, "How the hell do you think I got it here?"
It's a good thing to say.
It weighs 16 kilograms. And then he says, "No, next time, leave the bicycle out the box, bring the bicycle here, they'll take the bike up, and then bring the box on your own to the airport and pack the bike in the box before you fly." And I thought to myself, if you can take a bike, why can't you take a bike in a box? But I didn't say anything. I removed myself from the situation because, these people, when they have an inkling of power, then they very quickly are like, well, now we're not taking anything. So I removed myself from the situation, and
Bike in a box.
Bike in a box may arrive and may not.
So was the bike taken out of the box?
No. He literally said it's a private company that transports this, and they may not be able to get the box onto the truck. It's a box that weighs 16 kilograms, and it's like the size of the TV. And I thought, is it a 3-year-old toddler like loading that truck, or what's the problem?
Do they have a bike rack, or how do they usually transport the bikes?
I didn't want to get into it.
I had the pleasure of sending my car up from Stellenbosch to Johannesburg on the train, and it was all fine. Getting the car onto the train was perfectly fine. And then the day it was supposed to arrive in Johannesburg, supposed to arrive at Rand Station. So I walk into Rand Station, and I don't know if anyone knows how big Rand Station is, but Rand Station is fucking big. It's a big place. And you kind of walk in there, and then first of all, you just absolutely have no idea where you're going. Nothing works. And I went to the information stand that I eventually found, and I said to her, "Hey, so this is my train, this is my car, and it says, can you tell me which platform it's arriving at?" And she goes, "Yes." And I'm like, "Yeah, where?" She's like, "No, it'll arrive here on the platform." So I spent the next 3 hours kind of just, at some point, some lovely gentleman told me that all the like cargo trains arrive at like one of 6 platforms, and they're all on the one side of the train station where you can see all of them. So I kept on kind of just spending 20 minutes on this platform, and then I would go up the stairs and back down the stairs, hoping that the train was open so I could see that my car was there. Needless to say, 3 hours later, my car arrived.
Thank God your car wasn't in a box.
Yeah, that is true. So what we're saying, the train system is better because they let you put your thing on the train if it's not in a box.
Yeah. And then I got back and I immediately turned on the Liverpool-Arsenal game, which we'll get to later. And I watched it sort of as the plane was deboarding, and then walking to the train, I sort of had it on in my ears. I get on the train, it's an IC that goes via Zuidkreuz to Hauptbahnhof to Gesundbrunnen. I was like, okay, I'll just go all the way to Gesundbrunnen. How terrible is the network coverage in Germany?
Yeah,
you're like 40 kilometers south of Berlin. nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
There is
Between-
not
between the
not
airports and the
not a
city.
bar in sight. And then when you do get a bar, stupid Sky Sports has frozen, so now you have to close it. You have to watch
Ads.
again. And just as the ads have stopped playing, you lose coverage again. And you just go through a vicious cycle of not
Of
watching
ads.
anything.
The-
And then I get to flipping Gesundbrunnen and Schienenersatzverkehr.
So that's what I.
Oh yeah,
Oh
true.
God! So you got on a nice bus there. I must say that also the train network generally is something that I feel like they say it's going to save all of us from impending global warming, and they've done absolutely nothing to make it more attractive. Nothing, like absolutely nothing. They say, "Oh, Wi-Fi." Yeah, it's nice if I can connect to this network, but if there's fuck all signal, what must I do now?
If the network doesn't connect to the internet, then
No, the train has Wi-Fi.
yeah.
Yeah, but now what happens outside of the train? Oh God,
That's terrible.
first world problems.
Apparently,
But it only costs €9 in the summertime.
yeah. Yeah. Right. Should we get into some sports
Back
then?
to real issues.
Yeah. Lot happened,
Oui.
actually,
Yes.
this weekend. I'm going to start with something that maybe is a little bit left of field, but big sporting event. El Clasico happened this weekend.
Hold on. Do you know what that is?
I assume it's football.
Okay.
Yeah. Und
Which
weiter?
which two teams do you think play in El Clasico?
Real Madrid and Barcelona.
Hey, halala,
All right.
halala. Yeah, well done.
Yay!
How much did the language give away?
99%.
It's actually the Budapest derby. El Clasico.
So, ended 4-0 to Barcelona. The game was in Madrid.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Watched some of the highlights. First half, Madrid was still in it.
Yeah.
Second half, Barcelona could have scored more.
Yeah. Hansi Flick's doing a crazy job. Crazy stat that this year Barcelona have caused an offside play to their
Oh, yeah, I saw the
opponents
stat.
87 times this
Yeah.
season already.
They play a very good line.
And they've
87.
played, I think they've played 15 games in all competitions. So if you do the maths, you're talking about 6-7 offside calls a game.
Mbappe scored 1 or 2 offside goals.
The one that
think-
was the one that he actually scored. I think he got
No, he
caught.
scored. I think second half he also
As
scored
well,
one
another
away,
one?
and it
Yeah.
was, but there he was like 2 meters offside.
Yeah, they're crazy. That's one of Hansi Flick's sort of signature, the coach's moves. He's really good at springing the offside trap. Springing the offside trap and causing players to be offside by the line, the movement of the line, the back line.
He didn't spring that trap so well when he was Germany coach.
No,
So what do? They have the defensive line as they're about to pass.
yeah,
move up.
they have trigger movements. Yeah, exactly.
So it can if you drill it into your players very well, it can
Yeah.
be a super beneficial thing, as you can see. But I think it takes a lot of discipline for the players to get right.
Yeah.
And then if you don't get it right, you're just all running into the wrong direction.
You also need
Well, that's what I was going to say. If everybody gets it wrong, there's nobody there to defend except for the goalie.
you also need the right kind of players to do it
Yeah.
as well. So you need players that are quick enough to get back as well, to put pressure on. So it's a combination of things. But yeah, it's been working unbelievably well for him. And saw some interesting comments. Lewandowski, Real Madrid just put a roof on the Bernabeu. They've just unveiled the stadium this year. And he said, oh, it's interesting how they put a roof on their stadium only to get cooked in it. So
It's
some
just-
fighting
that guy
words
also
from
missed
Lewandowski.
a lot of chances.
He did.
Have I ever told you about the Bernabeu stadium tour?
No.
That's daylight robbery. Daylight fucking
Do
robbery.
you not enjoy it?
I went there and I think they charge you something ridiculous, like €50 for the tour. You only see the actual inside of the stadium for 10 minutes. The rest of it, you're just walking through like back rooms and they just show you pictures of their trophies.
Nice.
It's fucked. You don't see the media room, you don't see the change room. And then when we were there, they were rebuilding it and everything stank like paint.
Nice.
It was a shit show. And then at every corner they try to sell you something. So you can obviously you can print a coin with like the Real Madrid logo on it. You can take photos with the players, so the players are like superimposed on your photo.
Mhm.
It's a fuck show.
It seems like something that club would do though.
Yeah. Right. So El Clasico, big win for Barcelona.
Mhm.
Let's switch to F1 because that was also filled with drama
Mm-hmm.
yesterday.
This is one of the few weeks I don't actually know what happened. So
Well,
Mexican Grand Prix,
it
right?
was
Yeah.
in Mexico. Checo struggled to start anywhere close to points, but drove a fairly good race.
Well, I mean, it says something about your race when you're literally the biggest thing that you're doing is fighting with a Williams.
Yeah.
For position.
So it was Carlos Sainz and Paul, then it was Verstappen, then it was Lando Norris. And in the first corner already, there's a bit of a scuffle, and
Bit of the new Afrikaans word, ladies and gentlemen, gescuffle.
That was very unnecessary.
yeah, it was just a scuffle. Regardless, so Lando got pushed out again with Max, and Charles Leclerc managed to sneak on through, and then Carlos Sainz managed the race from the front the entire time. Lando and Verstappen had more scuffles.
Yes,
Gescuffles.
I mean, you can call it a scuffle, but Verstappen was just trying to end Norris's race.
He's literally trying to run him off the track.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even. It's no longer just a little bit like, oh, I got my arms out. It's literally what was it? Was it Hakkinen and Michael Schumacher back in the day, where he just was like, I just need to end this guy's race, and then I win the championship
straight into him.
That's kind of like the tactics that Max is currently
What did I
using.
read about a middle finger incident?
Oh, that was the Williams driver driving past Checo. What's his name? The new guy, Lawson.
Lawson?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gave the middle finger to Checo.
Nice.
So I think Verstappen got 2 consecutive 5-second penalties.
10. So he had 20-second penalty in total.
Shit.
Yeah.
And now Norris finished second right after Perez. So
No, after Charles. After Carlos finished
Sainz,
first.
yeah.
So it was actually quite interesting because Lando was catching up pretty quickly towards the end, towards the last 15 laps, just kept gaining on Charles. And Charles then had a bit of a slip on the final corner, 8 laps before the finish. Just managed to save his car. It was very close to crashing. And Lando got through, and Lando was gaining about half a second a lap. But he was 7 seconds out and had 10 laps.
Yeah.
So he was catching quite quickly. And, if there was another 5 laps, it could have gotten quite interesting. And you could kind of say, well, that's kind of what Verstappen took from him at the beginning.
Okay.
Because, because Lando was stuck behind Max and he didn't let him through. So the 20-second penalty only became relevant for passing Max when he went into the pits.
Right. No ifs, no buts, no coconuts. The driver standings are semi-close. What is very close is the constructors, because 3 teams are in it, and one weekend can always switch it all.
Well,
the question is,
the Drivers' Championship is also not done yet. There's 40 points different. There's 4 races to go, and there's also a good chance of Charles overtaking Lando for second. So it's still very interesting.
yeah, absolutely fascinating.
I saw there was some shithousery from some of the guys in the team photos.
Yeah.
So one of the McLaren team members
Yeah, it was
crashed
the boss,
crashed the Ferrari team photo,
Yeah.
and then one of the Ferrari guys, I think if Sainz actually went and crashed the McLaren photo. So I think there's some,
Everyone's just having a great time,
except Red Bull, they're just bitter.
and they're imploding.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely a lot of stuff to watch going in.
But yes,
all
Constructors' Championship is also very
very
interesting.
tight. Yeah. Then the question is, other than the teams themselves, who really remembers the constructors' title in a few years down the line?
I think it's just important for them because of money.
Yeah.
And I think if you're looking to build winning teams and cars, but probably also attracting. What's the situation with McLaren's team? They're going to keep both their drivers for next season,
Both their drivers.
which bodes well. Then I think if the team performs well, then it increases their chances of possibly taking someone like Lando Norris to the title, particularly with all the changes happening next year. Any news on Verstappen?
Verstappen staying at Red Bull. I haven't
As
heard
things stands, okay.
anything.
Maybe Horner leaves.
Checo has got his seat for now.
Jesus,
People are saying that maybe what's his name, Colapinto. They're like, oh, he's pretty good because he's racing for not AlphaTauri. What are they called now?
Yeah,
Forget their name.
Junior Red Bull.
The Junior Red Bull, baby Red Bull.
Okay.
Surprising that Tsunoda crashed out again. That guy's ridiculous.
He's a bit.
He
He's
just
a bit
throws
hard-headed.
caution to the wind. That guy.
I can win.
Why does he sound like the guy from Rat Race?
Because I feel like Rowan Atkinson. Never mind. I was going to say he should play him in a movie, but that would not be right.
All right.
And then what's so Carlos is going to Williams.
Okay.
Which is a big step down for him.
Yeah.
Although Williams is currently doing quite nicely. But
Yeah,
then
but I think it's a bit of a.
where's Alex Albon going?
I don't know.
I don't even know. And then Hamilton, who I personally believe has been driving pretty shit, is going to Ferrari, who's the up and up team now. So
Do you think Drive to Survive is still as interesting these days?
I think this season's one will be very good.
I think the season's one will be good purely based on what's happened this year. But I think the way that they're editing it is terrible.
Yeah.
They've gone and they've been caught red-handed for taking segments out of different races and creating rivalries that didn't even exist in the race themselves.
Yeah.
So they're dramatizing the whole thing where it doesn't need that extra drama. So I think they've kind of lost credibility.
And I think he wanted to be reflective of what was actually happening in the sport. There's no point in like, ooh, like people are watching it for Formula One, not because the guys accidentally bought the same pair of sneakers.
You've got hundreds of thousands of fans who are watching on TV the whole year through, and then you think you can like hoodwink them 2 months after the tournament. Like,
Yeah.
it's a bit of a silly sort of situation. Anyway, whatever.
Right. Let's move on to the URC. Some mixed results, I think, for South African teams. The Bulls snuck a victory against Benetton. Sharks with a very dominant display against Munster. Lions, I think, played well against Leinster. I'll give you guys some time to comment on that, maybe.
Yeah, so I think everybody kind of felt like the Lions were going to struggle against Leinster, especially at home. But what was good to see is that they can go to a place like
Just
Dublin.
hold on, sorry. Make sure you put your mic closer because it seems a bit low.
It's nice to see that they can go to a place like Dublin and grind it out. Didn't get the win, but we also struggled with an early injury to Kewan Horn. He got an HIA quite early on, and then we had Edward van der Merwe covering the back, and that didn't seem to be working very well. So all things considered, I think the loss was not too bad.
But I mean, I spoke to you about it on Saturday, I think, and I just said I think I expected them not to get the win, and I think I expected them. Yes, they've had a great start to the season, but they hadn't played the top teams yet.
No.
And I think it's I don't say any team looks at a fixture and goes, this is one we can get away with and still make it to the playoffs. But I think it's one that they, at least leaving the stadium after a decent performance would be thinking, okay, well, this is one that we probably weren't expecting to win away from home. That's not our route to the knockout stages. Is not beating Leinster. It's beating the teams that they've beaten so far.
Yeah.
And I think that's good.
The commentator was also saying that a lot of teams, if not most, will really struggle going to Johannesburg this year, just because it's obviously not the easiest place to play in general, but also the Lions are really good. And at home, I think you guys will have a good go at it.
And I'm interested, off the back of the Springbok squad being announced and way less Lions players being selected than maybe some people would have thought. I think you're seeing the team probably stay together. Of course, the guys are going to have a break now over the festive period, but you're going to see guys probably really they're going to get a real rest, and they'll have continuity throughout the season. Look at the Sharks, Sharks had to wait a few weeks for their Springboks to come back. They're back now and finally performing. And obviously those players are going to go away again with the Springboks. That means more rugby, more minutes in their legs. And how long does it take it to bleed them back into the team? And the Sharks, the way they started the season, don't have much time to lose in terms of losing games. They're going to have to keep winning games to get into those playoff spots.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about the Sharks because I don't know if you guys watched the game. I caught a little bit of it. And like I said in that WhatsApp group, I can't decide if the Sharks are suddenly really good or if Munster just really struggling at the moment. But they played some really good rugby. That 9-10 combination of Williams and Hendrickse performed really well. Esterhuizen at 12 is a monster. And Fussy played well again.
Yeah, and your front row, you can't forget, having a guy like Oxenchair in that front row is unreal. Like, they absolutely dominated. Like, when I say dominated, it was not even a contest in the scrums. They ran over their own scrums as well as their defending scrums. So yeah, you see the likes of Bongi and Ox really having an impact there. Sia, Eben, they obviously lead from the front, but then they also inspire the rest of the team to sort of pull finger. I mean, there's a reason those guys are all Springboks, right?
Yeah.
And it makes a massive impact. Sure. And they've got so much game time together.
Yeah.
With the Springboks, they can kind of
transfer that. This is what you expect
that.
of a team of that caliber, but they don't always deliver that. So the question is, will they be able to do that going forward? There might be injuries after the autumn test series. Like I said, I'm not sure if this is a a measuring stick, or if you need an even stronger team for them to really show where they're at?
Well, I think it's a combination of things. I think, first of all, on that comment, I think you can only beat what's in front of you. So for them to get the result, really good. I think Munster have been a lesser side this year. You know, they've had a couple defeats that you would really sort of scratch your head as to how that's been possible. But I do think, you know, the clear upward trend is there since the Springboks are back, and it's good quality. But as I said, you know, how do they offset those same players leaving them again, going off and playing international rugby again, and how do you bleed them back into the side without dropping more points, which is something you can't afford?
It's the chopping and changing of that team. That's what's going to be their downfall, I think.
Because I think 3 weeks ago or so, we were talking about that non-Springbok Lourdes side really struggling against Benetton, when we were all saying they didn't look like they wanted to be there. And that's something that they could go back to without the Springboks. But we'll see. A side that is really struggling is my Stormers.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. What was that? Nobody comes to Cape Town. Well, fair enough.
Well,
They
listen,
weren't in Cape Town.
They weren't in Cape Town.
Nobody comes to the Western Cape.
They played
That's
in,
no
they
longer
played in
the thing.
Stellenbosch. And listen, I know I studied there and I have a lot of love for that place, but I don't know if they need to play games in Stellenbosch. The turf looked ridiculous.
Okay.
Looked like an amateur field.
Pretty torn up, yeah. Pretty torn up and dry.
And you do lose a little bit of an atmosphere just because it's an open stadium.
Yeah.
So you don't get that much of a vibe going. Listen, I think it was like in the high 30s.
Okay.
So it was hot.
Yeah.
Which should benefit them.
Can I analyze this team?
Go for it. Go for it.
Yeah, Dobson's really struggling at the moment. It seems like he just he throws playmakers on in the middle, and then just relies on them for the magic and just hopes that the others can keep up. But these guys are offloading to players that I don't think are on the same headspace as those creative players, because you've got such magic in the back line, but Oaks can't catch the ball, and it leads to nothing. And there's no sort of structure. They sometimes fall back to that old Stormers way of just sort of tossing it around and really just almost playing volleyball with it. But going forward, there doesn't seem that much creativity. And what used to bail them out, their defense also. I mean, what's that centre who's also the Scottish captain? It's Tuilagi.
Tuipulotu.
He carved them to pieces.
Yeah. Also, a couple strange ones. I mean, look, I love the idea of Brock Harris. He's funny. He looks like he shouldn't be there, but I also think, let's be honest, I don't know if those are a couple of players that are really hurting the levels in that side. Look, the Western Province rugby, I mean, the Stormers rugby has always been known for also bleeding a lot of youngsters. I know that over the last few years, they've had to really cut down the size of the academy due to financial situations. I think 4 or 5 years ago, they were on the brink of bankruptcy with 75 professionally contracted players, and not even their youth setup, but just professionally. I wonder if they're not hurting because of that. I must say, you do look at a couple players. I mean, Lino Zas is a good player.
Well, I mean,
even Ruanel is a solid player, but I don't know if they're missing a couple of key cogs in the wheel.
I found their setup interesting on Saturday, because is Marnie injured, or why haven't they
played?
Yeah, but Marnie didn't play at 10, didn't he sub on?
Marnie played at 10.
Oh, I thought
Marnie played at 10.
I thought Willemse was playing at 10.
No, Willemse was playing. Willemse went off injured. Then I think Marnie shifted or something like that. But Marnie had a shocker. He got a yellow card. He dropped the ball a couple of times. It was all in there.
Okay.
Crazy. But you mentioned something very interesting. Willemse off again with an injury. He's out of the November team again.
Yeah.
Starting to give me some Pat Lambie vibes here. He's injured all the time.
It seemed like an unfortunate one. I don't know if it was due to the turf, but he pulled up just before he dotted down for a try, and it looked like he pulled his groin. But I want to get into the test squad a little bit later and get your guys' reaction on that. Let's finish off with the Bulls. Good tour for them. Yeah. Nice that they didn't get another red card.
Vital win, I think, as well, in the biggest
not on brand
things.
for them.
Yeah. I think nothing to do for that committee now this week, now that they don't have to review a Bulls red card.
God, they can go help the Premier League.
Yeah.
And I took so many of my Bulls players out of the team because I was like, I don't want to risk getting another red card.
No. Now we've got a little bit of a longer break. I think end of November we meet again, and I think now we're gonna get started on some SA derbies, which I think will be really big. I think Coastal Derby first. I don't know if the Bulls are playing the Lions immediately, but I know Sharks are playing the Stormers.
But also just on that Bulls game, like Benetton is pretty impressive this year. Eh?
Yeah.
Like for a country that doesn't really have that many rugby players and doesn't usually field good like Italian clubs like Benetton and Zebra.
I think they've done really well as well to get sort of some fringe players from some of the other leagues. Their left winger is an Italian international now, but he was sort of poached from the English setup.
Yeah.
You've got Umanga.
You've got Rhino Smith.
Yeah, Rhino Smith as well, who's had a really good
Classic Italian name.
Yeah.
Classic.
So there's some good players there. And I think it also maybe sort of matches a resurgence in Italian rugby to a certain degree. I think the Italian side is better than it's been. I think they had a really dark period the last 5 seasons or so, and they had a better showing at the World Cup last year. I think it can be said, not amazing, but better. And let's see how they do in the Six Nations. Maybe you'll see them get a win, which they did in the last Six Nations. They got a couple of surprise wins. So
it was against France, eh? Wasn't that the crazy one?
I think they beat.
I can't remember.
I think they beat France. Yeah, they beat France and they beat Wales. I think.
Yeah. A
Yeah.
little bit of a gap now. Rugby Autumn Series. I think Dom, you said it. It seems like it's a swan song for some of the players. I think we all expected maybe a few more, maybe not necessarily uncapped players, but definitely players who've had a little bit of less experience to be along for the ride. But it does seem like Rossi wants to make a statement.
It does, yeah. I mean, everybody's got their opinions on it. Me personally, I would have also hoped to have seen a couple of new guys or newer guys sort of join the squad, especially for something like the outgoing tour in autumn, because it's not for anything. It's literally just for bragging rights.
I think especially if you consider that we're playing Wales, that seems like the perfect game to bleed players again, because Wales aren't at their best. I understand you want to beat especially England, and you also want to put up against a good showing against Scotland, but yeah, let's not lie. We're not going to question Rassi here. But
there's a reason why we're sitting on this couch and he's coaching the Springboks.
Give us 1 or 2 more years and maybe he'll be sitting on this couch.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, with us, that would be quite nice. Yeah.
No, I'll be coaching the box then.
Okay. I do think it's that, and I also think I think it's a combination. First of all, we need to remember there's we're 1 year into a 4-year cycle. I think that can't be forgotten. I think you want to obviously bleed new players, but you don't want to break something that's working. And I think off the back of the Rugby Championship, there's also an element of just rewarding the squad to a certain degree for a great showing and continue to build whatever it is they're building. I think you also, under Tony Brown, you're working on new attacking systems. Why not keep slamming those home before you really make changes? I think it's natural for us as Springbok fans under Rassi to get excited about youngsters coming through, because over and over again he's brought them in and they've excited us and been a welcome addition. But I think we've got to stay, I think, realistic as well. And I think if we come away with 3 more wins on that autumn series, it's first of all, we'll be very happy because we'll be seeing 2 of those wins hopefully in Scotland and in England. But I think also, again, you look back at the year and you go, okay, it's a great base to go into next year and say, okay, what is the next phase of this 4-year building plan?
Yeah, I mean, there was Dominic and I were talking about this on the weekend. We were saying like, oh, which players would we have liked to have seen in the squad? And for me personally, this is what I was complaining to Dominic about. I was like, man, I really feel like Cameron Hanekom should have deserved a spot. Obviously, that's now changed because due to Willemse, Hanekom has gotten that opportunity because he's just been playing incredible rugby for the Bulls. And I rate him better than Oriclo, but Oriclo has obviously proven himself in the Springbok jersey, whereas Cameron hasn't yet gotten that opportunity. Very important for us is that we also take Cameron off the market for Wales, because he's got a Welsh passport or Welsh heritage. So he would have been eligible to play for them if he hadn't been capped for us. Maybe he starts thinking, well, if I want to have an international career, maybe I have to look elsewhere. So that's at least secured us that player.
Traditional Welsh name as well.
Cameron.
That was going to be my next question to you guys. Give me one player that you wish you'd seen go on this tour with the Springboks.
So in addition to Cameron?
Yes, because he is now going.
So
Who are you disappointed that's not going along?
I mean, I understand why he hasn't been selected and I understand why he hasn't yet gotten an opportunity with the Springboks. I find a player like Sanele Nohamba extremely exciting, especially for the Springboks, where you have a guy like Rassi who loves having versatility in his team. Here you have a guy with Sanele Nohamba who is both scrum half and fly half. Granted, extremely small for a fly half at international level, but could take on kicking duties, for example, especially when you have a guy like Mani who really struggles. Maybe even have a guy like Damian Willemse who also has gone through his woes. I think he brings an excitement to the game, and he's obviously shown that he's got endurance to, push the 480, playing different positions for the Lions and running rugby, which is what the Springboks are now trying to go towards, especially with Tony Brown, and which is what the Lions play quite naturally.
Yeah. For me, there's a couple of outsiders. I think I'm going to stick with the trend of... I won't stick with the trend of Lions. I would have liked to see Frankie Horn there, but I think I'm going to move away from that for a second because we spoke about this on the weekend. For me, the critical point to the Springboks winning the next World Cup as well, and one of the bigger questions to answer is the centre pairing. Because I don't know if Jesse Kriel and Damien Delendi will get there. I also don't know if will. I doubt it. They're a little bit too old. So I would have loved to see... look, Kanan Moody's going. He might play at outside centre, but I would have loved to see an outsider outside of Esterhuizen or some of the guys that just don't seem like they'll make the next World Cup given a shot. It would have been a very big outside shot, I think, even now, even though they're promising players. But you have it's Henku, right? Henku van Wyk.
Henku van Wyk, yeah.
Henku van Wyk from the Lions is a great player, someone with a lot of potential. That would have been a nice outside shout, particularly against Wales, to see an exciting younger inside a centre pairing, at least, to see someone partner Kanan Moody. But alas, I think we're a couple of years away from having someone really stake their claim to that role. But that would have been my outside shout, I think.
I'm also going to stick with the Lions. I think Edwil van der Merwe would have been... I think he played well in that mid-year test, and I think he's a great winger that could have gotten a good chance against Wales, but I'm sure we'll see more of him
I think so,
next year and as time progresses. Right. I think that's it for the rest of the sports that we have to cover, because there's one massive thing that we haven't spoken about yet, the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
It is the first coach to get fired this year.
Yeah, Erik ten Hag. I mean, we posted about it today and said surprised but not surprised, and it's one of the most peculiar sackings I've ever kind of been been able to experience, to be honest. I think everyone saw it coming, but no one saw it coming. I did not expect them to fire him this quickly after the result yesterday against West Ham, to be honest. I think there was... I had sort of been resigned to the fact that it would take another string of bad results to get him fired. But alas, he's gone. And I think there is a massive relief. The reports coming out of the United dressing room is that a lot of the players are relieved, because I think a lot of them, had become untenable. I think.
But I mean, so obviously Ten Hag wasn't playing an attractive brand of football, but surely the players are also a little bit at fault here, and it turns into a little bit of a repeat circus when you get a new manager, he gets the players that he wants.
Yeah,
you go through some bad results, and then there's murmurs immediately of the fact that he's lost the dressing room, where surely those players need to stand up and be counted.
No, I think so. I think the one doesn't counter the other. I think the problem is in football is that's just the dynamic of football clubs, and that's the dynamic that we're in at the moment. The players are paid ludicrous amounts of money and don't carry the same responsibility as coaches do at the end of the day. Having said that, though, I do think there's the performance yesterday against West Ham was the perfect example of, it was a textbook as to why Erik ten Hag has not seemed to have really staked his claim to keeping this Manchester United job. We had a really good first half. We missed 6 gilt edge chances.
If I say sitters,
like ludicrous.
The one Oak missed an open goal.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
He's a right back, but
still. So
he's not used to kicking for goals.
But we come off at half time. And we come out after the break. West Ham make 3 early changes, and we get completely outplayed.
Listen, one also has to say that penalty decision was also
sure, but I think
daylight robbery.
Again, that's why I focus on the fact that your opposition coach can make 3 changes and turn the game on its head, and you essentially get outcoached And that's unfortunately a pattern that's just happened over and over again. And I've said it a lot of times on this podcast, and I'm going to say it again as well. At some point, you need to understand the reality of winning games and getting points. And I think you have this, Hamburg had a similar coach, but you have this sometimes of coaches that are so convinced and stick so crazily by the book. From what you read, Erik ten Hag's not your sort of modern man manager kind of guy. He's a dude who stays up until 3 o'clock in the morning, and he'll watch footage and be the most prepared and have the most details about a team in the world. But you have to win football games. After 90 minutes, you have to walk off that pitch and have won the game. And I really think over time, that part of Erik, or that downside to Erik ten Hag as a manager, has just gotten so much more prevalent. You know, he hasn't changed. He hasn't changed the formation in 2.5 years at the club, except on Thursday. Thursday was the first time in 2.5 years at the club that he's ever changed a formation in 2.5 years at a club.
No, that's wild.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
So for me, I think it's someone who I think he's really principled, he's really theoretical, he's really technical as a manager, but I think he never understood that. I think he lost grasp of reality and lost grasp of actually translating that into results, and not realizing that you can't stand there at the end of a loss and speak about, on paper, the positive things that you did as a team, because nobody cares.
Brendan Rodgers got into that at the end of his Liverpool career, constantly speaking when we'd been beaten or when we'd drawn, how much character we showed.
Yeah,
and
I remember that.
It was, as a Liverpool fan, it was tough to watch.
It's no consolation, it's no consolation. And I think, he said stuff like he ignored the Tottenham result, which was the beginning of sort of the big slide where we lost 3-0 to Spurs. He ignored that result because we were down to 10 men and the red carpet reserved. And I just don't. I think there's this sort of gap to reality and what happens on a football pitch and what you're trying to do as a manager. And I think that's cost him at the end of the day.
Yeah. You said before we started recording that there's already got a man lined up. So lead us through that. But also, they didn't fire him in the summer. He spent, I think, 150 million on more players that he wanted. So now you've got a squad that's basically to 80% been set up by him for his system. This new manager that you've got has to work with that surely for the next, at least until the summer, if not longer, because your new owners also won't say, here you go, open book.
So I think if you look at the transfers that Erik ten Hag did over his time, I think the two that stand out that are definitely signings for him that I think were a big mistake and was a mistake by the club were Mason Mount and Anthony. I think those are the two signings where you really scratch your head.
Who signed Casemiro? Or was that the manager before?
That was him as well, but Casemiro had a great first season. He had a bad last season, had a great...
You guys paid way too much for him.
But he's been good this year as well. Look, again, I think you have to look at the clear... Some players, particularly players in their twilight, you don't really know how their downfall is going to be. But I think if you're looking at easy shouts at what are transfers that are bad, that were done for Erik ten Hag, you're looking at Mount and Anthony. After that, though, and I think this last transfer window, if I look at this last transfer window, the profile of player that was bought is a player that I think benefits United as a club, irrespective of who the manager is. I think you're looking at someone like Matthijs de Ligt, who's a centre-back, who is a young centre-back with a lot of potential, who's a very high-profile centre-back. I think he'll do well. Mazraoui is a similar player from Bayern Munich, a good, youngish 26-year-old right or left-back, and a really good squad player. He improves our squad, and I think those are the things that we have to look at. And this brings me to who I think and why I think the next person should be chosen is this ability to make players better. And I think we spoke about it a few weeks ago, is that United have become a bit of a graveyard for players that move to us. And I think that needs to be the move for the next coach, is looking at a coach who can really improve players, who can get the best out of a squad. And I think that's the question. And I've said this and I sound like a stuck record. At the end of the day, did Erik ten Hag get the best out of that squad? And if you look at that squad, is that squad a squad that should be 14th after 9 games in the Premier League? And I think the easy answer is no.
No, they shouldn't be. All right, you've got us waiting on bated breath. Who's going to be the next United manager?
So according to David Ornstein from Athletic, he's very, very, very good at breaking stories. It's going to be Ruben Amorim from Sporting.
Right.
Who's that?
No idea who that is, but
he was one of the favourites to actually take over for Liverpool in the summer as well, and it didn't end up happening.
Oh shit!
Yeah, he was also one. He was also the
Well, there you have it.
also the bookies' favourite. Interestingly enough, the bookies' favourite to take over from Pep Guardiola should he leave at the end of the season.
All right, you guys have got him.
It looks like it. Yeah, 39 years old. He's done incredible work at Sporting. He joined Sporting as a coach with
Didn't Erik ten Hag do very good things in the Netherlands as well?
Yes.
Let me not.
What did Arne Slot do in the Netherlands?
Very good things.
There you
but
go.
he's doing very good things in the Premier League
Yeah.
as well.
What's the timeline? When is he going to come into the fold? And who's coaching or who's managing in the meantime?
So Ruud van Nistelrooy, who's one of our a legendary player, my favorite player actually of all time, was part of Erik ten Hag's team, coaching team. He stayed on as interim manager. We play Leicester on Wednesday, again the EFL Cup, and then we have another game on Sunday. I think those two games will be overseen by Ruud van Nistelrooy, and I expect, according to reports, 10 million euros is what the release clause is for Amorim from Sporting, and since it's a release clause, as soon as we trigger that, we should be able to negotiate, and he should be in pretty quickly.
Looks like the opposition is in for a rude awakening.
Oh Christ, he was laughing. Did you guys
It's because
rewind and watch how long he
It's
had that on the
because-
tip of his tongue?
He was already knocking me on the knee. I was like, I don't know what's coming now.
Because that one goes out to Bass. He wrote that to me today. Said I can use it in the podcast.
I do agree. I do agree about.
Shout out.
I agree with Basta that I do think you'll probably see Ruud get two good results, just off the bounce of the new manager.
And then Rio
bounce.
Ferdinand's going to shout, give him the contract, whatever he wants.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I don't think that'll happen.
Right. Well, we obviously all wish for a massive United turnaround and that they suddenly do well.
I don't think either of you could give a shit, but thank you for pretending.
I just hope that you're happier.
What do you mean?
But Klaus, he's always happy at the beginning of a new manager's reign.
No,
Yeah, that's true.
I'm actually generally always happy.
How long do you think it's going to take for him to call for his head?
No, he didn't call for the last manager's head,
This
to
is
be
true.
fair. He was very careful not to.
He used other words
But
to describe.
usually United managers up until now, since Alex Ferguson has left, usually last around 2 years. So
Okay.
if this guy lasts longer than 2 years, then he's doing really well, which I hope will not happen.
Let's talk about 2-2 yesterday, and let's talk about Virgil van Dijk.
All right. So listen, Arsenal were missing basically their entire first team, but we still were playing in London. So it's not necessarily a bad result, but I was hoping that we could capitalize on the fact that both of their centre halves were missing. One was sent off, the other one got injured, and their best playmaker was also gone. Listen, he's
Virgil van Dijk.
what are you trying to bait me into here?
Should he
What
have
happened?
been on the pitch?
Oh, for that thing he did to Havertz.
The thing.
You're like the German commentators. They love picking out a German player for them to celebrate. It was nothing.
Can somebody explain to me what happened?
There was a off the ball gescuffle, as you would say.
A scuffle.
But literally, Van Dijk kicked out at this player twice.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and he was German. So
Disgusting.
You should have heard the
I don't
German
care about the
commentators.
Germans. I'm the last person to listen or like a German commentator.
No, listen. Don't make a mountain out of a molehill.
Was it a yellow card at least, actually?
Yeah, it could have been a yellow card.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah.
See how much sanity still prevails.
But then, yeah, we didn't necessarily look that good. But then when Arsenal went ahead, they had like 11 men almost inside their own box. So it was really tough to break them down. But Salah did. We'll take the point. But it did show that there is something still that can go missing in those big games for Arne Slot.
But I mean, let's be honest. Let's look at the bigger picture here, because I know you're very excited and all the Liverpool fans are very excited. But to be where you are now, coming into a new coach and a new season, going away to the Emirates and getting a point is a very, very good result.
Tom, when you're used to excellence, that's your new standard. Standard is excellence.
So excellence is not winning the Premier League since when?
2 years, 2 or 3 years.
Okay, so you've been excellent for 2 to 3, 4 years then, including the Premier League win.
When Man City get relegated because the 115 charges are proven to be true, we'll have a few more league titles. You'll also have one.
We will, yeah, this is true.
Very disappointing loss, which I think is why you're so down for Tottenham.
Oh, yeah, traumatized by it.
Claus
Can't
almost
believe
went
it.
back to the hospital.
Can't believe it went down like that. What happened?
The other team scored more goals than you.
Is that how it works?
Tottenham,
not a great result at all, actually.
Tottenham with a tough result, and then I'll be honest, I don't even know what happened in the rest of the league.
Very high scoring game between Ipswich and Brentford, I think it was. Brentford getting the win in the end. Wolves coming back from 2-0 down to draw
against
huge.
Brighton. Brighton had a 4-on-1 in overtime.
Yeah.
The leading 2-1.
Huge result.
And they didn't score, and then Wolves went up the other way and scored an equalizer.
That's how you get it done.
Yeah, I'm still very interested to see how long they keep Gary O'Neill, but the results slowly seem to start trending in the direction. I think if he can turn that around, it'll be unbelievable. But yeah, I mean, some interesting teams in that top 10. Now I think you can finally start really judging teams, 9 games into the season.
Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, Nottingham Forest are up there quarter of the way into the season. You're starting to see how teams are doing. So I think that's why Erik Ten Hag got fired, because we're 14th. But yeah, I think City's still looking favourites. Haaland back to his normal.
Although they only beat Southampton 1-0, so we're going to win the league. Right, and I think last thing to discuss is Dom and my Iron Man this weekend.
Iron Man.
Slow down.
Christ.
Iron Man's a touch more difficult.
I went for a run on the weekend.
Okay.
I've now got a very sore calf,
Okay.
and I ran 3 kilometers, which felt like 80.
Okay.
And then I had to pull to the side because I was so tired.
I too was, I went for a High Rocks workout today and did half of it. It was sore. But I played paddle afterwards and I was fine. So.
Padel.
Padel.
Who do you play with?
I got invited by some of Zonya's colleagues. The very last minute.
Klaus is going to organize a paddle session soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've even got a racket.
You do, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Untouched.
So hopefully we'll be recording an episode next week. There'll definitely be some content on Instagram about our...
Why do you say hopefully? You're worried you might be hospitalized.
I'm after that weekend run. I'm not, you know what the weird thing is usually I'm not a runner, but when I tell myself I have to run, I woke up and then I was like, oh, I need to go running. And I got ready and then I just started running without doing any warm-up whatsoever. And my body was like, what the fuck are you doing?
This is not what we do on a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
Ill advised. The one thing that makes me a little more calm, and I think you're similar to me, I think maybe me a bit more so, is I'm a proper fucking Schweinhund there when these things go. So once you're in it, there's no escape. And I think when I'm on that treadmill at the gym here and I sort of go between exercises, I'm like, I think I can go change now.
Nothing gets me to stop a workout quicker than my own brain.
Yeah, 100%. Don't listen to the voices.
I'm like, why are you doing this?
I can just stop. Nothing's chasing me.
Yeah.
Having said that, it was so funny when I did the solo one in the solo High Rocks in April. I'm not joking. I came in after the first 1 kilometer thing, and I was like, maybe is that an injury I'm feeling?
Yeah.
No one's gonna hate me if I've like torn my calf on the first run. But then I stuck to it, and I'm glad I did. But I think I must say, for me, the fact that we're doing a doubles and there's a bit of sharing the load, I feel a bit more relaxed.
You guys can motivate each other on the runs there. Because I can imagine them getting quite lonely there if you're doing it alone.
There's a lot of ugly things that happen in your head when you're doing a solo High Rocks.
When you start I know when we were doing the triathlon a couple of years ago, when you start counting lampposts, you're like, okay, I'll run into that second lamppost. Then you get to the lamppost, now I can walk again.
But Claus, let's be honest, you did yourself no favors with that triathlon. I've never seen someone more ill prepared for something. You're almost as ill prepared as Kamala Harris.
What's your triathlon record with having started 2?
What do you mean? Like, what's my PB or
your PB?
Your PB is the only one you finished.
But the first one was technical.
Yeah,
technical malfunction.
First one you would have broken the national record if it wasn't for your bicycle.
Dude, I was flying.
Yeah, and then second one, I believe, you pulled your back doing deadlifts in the week before.
Yeah, that was maybe I shouldn't have done deadlifts.
It is one of the happiest moments of my life when I passed him on the bicycle, I must say.
At speed.
At speed. I'd caught up with the fast guys and I was like, let it get into the slipstream.
For a racing bike, I had to sit so upright because my back and hand, I was using my fingertips just to hold the
And I'll
handlebars.
never forget your face. I was like, hey, Claus. And you just looked at me like you'd seen a ghost.
Oh man, when I got off that bike and I was like, oh man, still another 10 kilometers to run. This is terrible.
Listen.
But I can tell you, I think you might agree, or I think you will agree, that I think the triathlon is a little bit more, actually way more intense than high rocks. It goes quite quickly, especially when you're doing it in doubles. And that third run is going to be shit. Because I think that's what, at least that's how it was for me and Costa. We ran that third lap and we're like, oh man, we're not even halfway through. This is going to take forever. But once you can get over that, then the rest is quite manageable.
I'm not concerned about finishing as much as I'm quite eager to set a good time.
Oh, right. Okay. I know that was never a prerogative of mine.
But you also did it with a violent injury to your foot. So
Violent injury. I think I went for one run and did
What?
normal gym.
So you've done a triathlon where your bicycle tire got punctured. You did a triathlon in the week before where you pulled your back doing deadlifts, and then you did a high rocks competition where you didn't train at all and you just went for one run.
And I had a dislocated foot.
You're really punishing yourself with these things.
But next year I come back stronger and better than ever before.
What are you signing up for next year?
Maybe the triathlon there.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Thanks. I think the thing that what I think is tough on the triathlon, and why I would agree with you, is that each of the disciplines, whether you're trying or not, there's an element of you still pushing all the time. You know, with the high rocks exercises and also with the run, you use the run as like a recovery, and then you go into the exercises and you push relatively hard as you can. But because of this constant sort of motion through each of the disciplines in a triathlon, I think you're pushing yourself closer to the limit, or at least it feels that way for me. Like you're constantly it's like you're chasing your own little, like they have in the swimming pool in the Olympics, that little, like that personal best or world record time line. And I think you're trying to stay there. And you also realize that if you've set yourself a target, you have to push a certain amount within the triathlon in each discipline. Whereas with this, there isn't you can pick and choose disciplines that maybe you're a bit better or worse at, or disciplines where you're like, okay, I can afford to take a little more time on the rower, for example, because I can just go through the motions. I would agree that a triathlon is tougher. Yeah.
So you start doing those burpees and it doesn't feel like it's easier.
The burpees are a pile of shit.
And that, I think, is a good place to leave it for now.
Yeah.
We hope the sound's been good. Could also be that we've just recorded an hour of this and there's nothing there.
And maybe it's all clipped, but
No, that's all right. I think the first, you did a bit of like Ray Charles there in the first 5 minutes, but then searching for the microphone. But
Also, maybe to finish up, big shout out to our friend Reggie for his latest release.
Yeah.
And if you look at the music video, like I said, there's a point about 1 minute in where you can see how he fractures his heel. His face does something very.
It's also his birthday.
very
So
funny.
it was his birthday.
Happy birthday.
Birthday week.
Yeah.
Said he went and he played some golf at like a golf simulator.
okay,
He said he played Augusta.
nice.
Why the hell would you go play a golf simulator when you live in South Africa?
Because I think he wanted to play. There was like three
Wanted to
different
play
groups. Well, he wanted to play Augusta. Yeah, there's 3 different groups, and they all played different things. So I think like the better golfers played Augusta. Then there was the mid golfers.
Sorry, wait, hold on.
He considers himself part of the good golfers.
Yes.
When he told me,
he needs to find better friends.
when he told me, he also laughed. He was like, "Yeah." Bro. And then I think there was a couple of girls that also joined the party, and they played like.
What?
Nah, it was like
Kidding.
it was essentially target practice.
God damn it! Sorry,
Yeah.
that was bad.
He said he had a
We
good
should have
time.
stopped when you said we were gonna stop.
He said he had a good time, and then he said he went out for drinks, and then there were some big oaks that tried to rough him up.
Doesn't sound like him at all.
So he
Sounds
said he
like
didn't
a
have his boys.
Typical night in South Africa.
Didn't have his boys, so he
Which
went
boys,
home.
bro? I hope he didn't mean us.
No.
'cause-
No. He knows we're lovers, not fighters.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
No. His other boys.
Right. Okay.
Lovely.
Good episode. Thank you very much.
Bada bing. Bada boom.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Tune in next week. Like, comment, subscribe. We're getting into some comments there on YouTube. We've got some quite knowledgeable local fans there in our watchers and subscribers. So check it out.
Yeah, well, you've been doing the heavy lifting in the comment section there. So
I always write we. Don't worry.
yeah, but it is Maxi responding. Yeah, and share.
Yeah.
Please. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers.